During World War I, the British government made a public statement that it supported the establishment of a, quote, national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. It's known as the Balfour Declaration, and it paved the way for the establishment of the State of Israel. Here's a clip from CBN's documentary, The Hope, chronicling that historic moment.
On November 2nd, 1917, the British government issued a letter that promised the Jewish people their first homeland in nearly 2,000 years. And with just 67 words, the map of the world changed forever.
His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country.
David Lloyd George had been raised in a deeply religious home in Wales, where he had studied the history of the Jewish people. He had become convinced of their right to return to their biblical homeland, and often spoke of putting Israel back on the map and providing a national hearth and a refuge for the hunted children of Israel. During World War I, Lloyd George became Britain's first Minister of Munitions, and in this capacity, he met a scientist who shared his dream of a Jewish homeland. At the height of World War I, Great Britain experienced a critical shortage of acetone, the chemical needed to create the explosive in artillery cartridges. So a Jewish chemist in Manchester went to work and came up with a new way to create acetone by fermenting grain, corn, and even chestnuts. He worked day and night to reproduce it in mass quantities, and soon the British were producing 90,000 gallons a year. The chemist who saved the British Army was a Russian Jewish man named Chaim Weizmann, a Zionist leader who would one day become the first president of the State of Israel. In Manchester, Weizmann made a number of strategic friendships with members of the British government. During the war, he worked with Lloyd George to solve the munitions crisis. And nearly a decade earlier, he had met a former prime minister who became a lifelong friend. Lord Arthur James Balfour was born in eastern Scotland, and like David Lloyd George, his childhood was steeped in the stories of the Bible. After several years as a member of Parliament, Balfour became Prime Minister in 1902. While in office, he supported the plan for a Jewish homeland in Uganda. A few years later, a friend introduced him to Chaim Weizmann of Manchester University, and the two debated the merits of the Uganda scheme for more than an hour.
But the Russian Jews need a safe haven immediately. Why not British East Africa?
The survival of Zionism is based on a spiritual conviction, and that conviction is based on Palestine, and on Palestine alone. If Moses had been here when they had proposed Uganda, he would surely have broken the tablets once again. Mr. Balfour, supposing I were to offer you Paris instead of London, would you take it?
But Dr. Weizmann, we have London.
That is true. And we had Jerusalem when London was nothing more than a marsh.
Are there many Jews who think like you?
I believe I speak the mind of millions of Jews who cannot speak for themselves.
If that is so, Dr. Weizmann, then you will one day be a force.
Lord Balfour had gone into the meeting hoping to change Weizmann's mind, but instead, he became the convert, and the Jewish people gained an ally in one of the most powerful men in England. On November 2nd, 1917, the final letter, signed by Balfour, was sent to Lord Rothschild. A week after that, it was published in newspapers around the world. Leaflets of the text were then airdropped over Jewish communities in Germany, Austria, and parts of Russia. But it would be another 3 decades after the Balfour Declaration before the Jews would have their state.
The Jews needed a home in which to survive, and they fought to achieve it. And sometimes they fought against the British to achieve it. The Balfour Declaration was an opening, but it was the Jews who kept the promise of the Balfour Declaration, not the British. It was the Jews who made it happen.
Alpha.